Over the last 4 years, I've posted on LinkedIn thousands of times, both for myself and for my ghostwriting clients. And in this video, I want to talk to you about the biggest thing that holds people back from posting. And it's not because they don't have enough time or they don't know what to post about or don't want to be cringe. There's one thing that holds us back from posting. That thing is resistance. And in this video, we're going to talk about what resistance is, what it looks like, and how you can win the daily battle against resistance. All right, let's go. So I remember hearing resistance for the first time, listening to a podcast where Seth Godin was talking to Tim Ferriss, and they were talking about this book, The War of Art by Steven Pressfield. I'd never heard of the book, but I've wanted to be a writer since I was a little kid. I was an English composition major in college. I was a copy editor and a columnist on our college newspaper. And then when it came time to decide what I wanted to be when I grew up, I took the safe path and I became a lawyer. But I was listening to this podcast, several years into my career as an attorney, and just the idea of resistance as this force that pushes back against us whenever we try to make something creative happen to improve ourselves or the world. It really struck a chord with me. So I read the book, and I've given this book to more people than any other book. Cannot recommend it highly enough. Steven Pressfield is a guy who has made his living as a writer and novelist, but he spent 20 years or so trying to make it as a writer before he had any real success. And he describes resistance as this natural force. It's this thing that is trying to keep us from doing our work with a capital W, the work that is yours to do, that if you don't do it, it's not going to get done. And so think about that voice in our head that when it's time to go to the gym, so maybe just stay on the couch, maybe just hit snooze, stay in bed. Or when we're thinking about writing our novel, oh, you don't want to do that today, do you? There are 1,000 examples, right, in our lives where we have an idea of how we can do something to improve ourselves or the world, and we don't. Pressfield spends basically half the book. It's a short book, but he spends about half the book just describing what resistance is and what it looks like. So let's talk about how it manifests. And I'll use myself as an example here, where at this point I've gotten pretty comfortable with showing up on LinkedIn, but now getting into YouTube and trying to get into a routine where I'm posting on this channel every week, it has been amazing to see how resistance shows up for me in all the different ways that resistance pops up. One of the things that makes resistance so powerful is how many forms it can take. That it can look like drama and distraction and busyness and addiction, procrastination, perfectionism. So for me, when it comes to YouTube, in particular, like this channel, I thought about doing this 2 years ago. So what has kept me from doing it? I'll give you just a few of the highlights. Video setup. So I've got this pretty sweet kind of rigmarole set up here where I've got great camera, great lens, little lighting setup, little place to hold it, got the professional grade mic. When I didn't have all that stuff, there was a thing in my head saying your production quality won't be good enough. You need all that stuff to be able to make YouTube videos, which is not true. You can make YouTube videos just talking to your iPhone, right? You could do that. It was resistance telling me I had to have that level of production in my setup. There's been a question of what do I talk about? What's the channel about? Is the channel for lawyers with LinkedIn, where my ghostwriting business, we built Contender, this agency that has been focused on serving lawyers. So am I doing a YouTube channel that's just focused on lawyers? Do I do it where I'm talking to a broader audience about how you grow a magnetic presence on LinkedIn? Just the decision there of I can't decide which one to do. So what do? I don't do anything. Right? So just that indecision showing up that way. The background of my videos, that has thrown me for so much of a loop. And frankly, we got a ways to go before we're going to be satisfied with what the background is. But again, that idea that the background has to be right before we can start, that's not true. You can record YouTube videos with any background. right? So for me, perfectionism is the biggest thing that resistance showed up as when it comes to YouTube. Distraction is another one where why not just go scroll YouTube or scroll LinkedIn instead of recording stuff, right? Just letting time seep out. And then next thing you know, 3 months has passed and you're no closer to having YouTube videos going out than you were before, right? So there are all these different ways that resistance shows up with the same goal, like that goal being that we let another day go by without us doing the thing. To take a line from Seth Godin, you want to be shipping, right? Like we need to be making stuff and then hitting that post button, hitting that ship button so that our work can get out in the world and have a chance of having an impact on somebody, right? And resistance's goal is just to keep us from procrastinating and getting distracted and making sure that everything is just perfect before we send anything with the hopes that that day will never come. Perfection is really hard to attain, isn't it? Right? So resistance is that force trying to hold us back from putting our work out in the world where it can have an impact on people. It can look like all these different things. And again, check out the book. Now, what do we do about that battle against resistance? I found that for myself, there's a really simple way to go from where I was in my 20s, where I would say resistance whooped my ass, basically like every day of my 20s, like through college. And then once I got out of college and went to law school in the first few years of my career as a lawyer, to as I got through my 30s and now I'm into my 40s, I win the battle against resistance most days. Not when it comes to YouTube necessarily, but I've written a lot, I've shipped a lot, I've posted a lot, I've shared a lot. All right, so I've learned what it takes for me to win that battle against resistance. And for me, it comes down to this. One, setting a clear metric, or like what is progress going to look like? So when it comes to LinkedIn, if you're starting to show up there, I'd say posting once a week for a month. You could set that as a very simple metric. Right? For me, I'm shipping one YouTube video every week. That's my metric coming out of the gate here with this channel. Right? So you've got the clarity of that simple metric. What is the creative output we're going to be producing? Then a second thing is putting the time in your calendar to actually make the stuff. What I've found is that if I don't have the time set aside, then I'm going to find, or resistance is going to help me find, things to plug into my calendar to eat up all the time. So it didn't happen. So I'm trying to commit. And for me, find early morning is the best time. So I do it before I get into the day, before I have a bunch of things commanding my attention. I try to put time in for that creative work so that I can start knowing I'm going to do the writing or do the recording, whatever I need to do. And then the third thing I find is just having the right support or the right system when it comes to the YouTube and the YouTube, is that what the kids say? Goodness gracious, how old am I? So I know that I can come in here. I have my coach Kyler who helps me with ideation and like what I'm going to be talking about. I've got my full setup where I can basically sit down, put the laptop up, plug in, hit record, and go. And then I know who's editing. I've got some great team support on the editing front, and they ship it, right? So I know how all those things happen. If you're trying to show up more on LinkedIn, it can be as simple as like knowing what tool are you using to draft. Are you just doing a Notes app or in a doc? And the simpler you can keep your production process, the better chance you're going to have of shipping your work. So to recap there, I like to take on my daily battle against resistance by having clarity on the cadence and the volume of material we're shipping, putting the time aside in my schedule so that I know when I'm going to be doing the work, and then having a simple, clear process so I understand how the work gets made. And so the goal there is that we are tightening up our mind and our time so that resistance has fewer opportunities to get in there and mess with us. And the last thing I'll say is that as we get a better understanding of what resistance looks like for us, there can be this desire or this hope that at some point resistance just goes away, like we don't have that problem anymore. In my experience, that doesn't happen. Resistance doesn't go away. Resistance shows up every day, ready to wrestle again. And so the trick for us as creatives is not to get to a place where resistance just doesn't show up. The goal is to get to a place where we are strong enough and we are confident enough in our abilities to create and ship that when resistance shows up to give us its best shot, we're ready to take it. And I'll leave you with a line from The War of Art where Pressfield quotes Somerset Maugham, a British novelist who was once asked whether he writes on a schedule or when inspiration strikes. And he says, I just write only when inspiration strikes. Fortunately, she arrives every morning at 9 a.m. That's what we're trying to get to. That we are producing, like, as Pressfield would say, professionals. People who show up, who do the work, and who ship the work consistently, routinely, methodically, like we do at our jobs. If you're getting started and you could use some help, send me a connection request on LinkedIn. If you've got any questions out of the gate, I do my best to answer them. I try to be good about responding to my DMs. And as my son would say, don't forget to smash that subscribe button. Thanks for watching. I'll see you out there.